Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Lapeer Community Schools Board of Education meeting for January 15th, 2020. This meeting is called to order. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Holden.
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Nolan. We're going to begin tonight with a special recognition. Mr. Laundry.
Thank you, Mr. President. What a special and unique opportunity we have tonight to recognize two district employees. At this time, I would like to invite Cammy here and Melissa Price to the podium, please. Hope you have your speeches prepared.
Thank you so much.
You only have 15 minutes to speak.
You don't have to say anything, but we want everyone to see who you are while we read this commendation. So it's my pleasure tonight to introduce you. This evening, we're honored to be able to recognize two hardworking paraprofessionals, Cammy Garrett and Melissa Price. A quick response to a student in distress may have saved a life this fall. Cammy noticed a student who looked out of sorts during a particular day at Mayfield during lunch. She immediately determined the student was choking and raced to his aid. Melissa noticed Cammy's quick action and responded immediately as well. Cammy began the Heimlich maneuver. The student was wearing his outdoor clothing and Cammy had a difficult time getting a good grip on the student. Melissa immediately began removing his coat and snow pants in order to attempt the maneuver again. Thanks to their prompt, calm, and effective response, the student's airway was ultimately cleared. So on behalf of the Board of Education, myself as a superintendent, our entire staff of Lapeer Community Schools, we thank you for your heroic efforts to help a student in need. And I think I can say for all the parents in the room that any one of us have had any anxiety of sending our child to school in the simple hopes they return safely, which is kind of a baseline expectation, right? We all have this fear that we won't be around when something really bad happens to our son or daughter. And for the grandparents in the room, or grandchildren, all the fears that you have as a parent, as a grandparent, that's one of the worst ones, right? You're not there in the most dire moment of their life, and to know that we have two employees that acted in such a quick and efficient way, because you know it's easy to go into panic mode. Not everybody can do that. Not everybody has the capacity to fight through the emotion of having to deal with that. They freak out, they fight or flight, and they don't respond like you did. And we have a student who has their life saved, and they have you to thank for that. So we're going to give you a plaque, we're going to take a picture. We have a lot of nice things to say, but I don't think it's necessarily enough to probably represent how that family feels about you, and certainly how proud we are of the steps you took to go above and beyond. And we just really, really, really appreciate it. And I'm trying to find the words that I think do it justice, although I'm limited and can't do that. But thank you so much. Join us over here. We're going to give you a plaque and take some pictures. You got it? Yep. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sure. I think the rest of the meeting gets less exciting after that.
Yeah, thanks for putting us after that.
What do you have, Roland Warner?
We'll give you a standing ovation.
You have
Yeah.
Okay, we will move on to discussion items tonight. Discussing our board vacancy. As the board is aware, there is a vacancy on the Board of Education. The board make this vacancy public. Interested persons must submit a letter expressing interest in the board position, along with qualifications for the position, including your address and phone number to the superintendent's office, no later than noon on January the 29th, 2020. To be eligible, a person must be a qualified school elector. This means that the applicant must be registered voter in the school district. An applicant must be at least 18 years of age, a citizen of the United States, a resident of the state of Michigan for at least 30 days, and a resident of the school district. Following review of the submitted materials, the board will schedule interviews with selected candidates at the regularly scheduled February the 5th board meeting. Deliberation, voting of candidate and oath of office will take place at a special meeting on February the 12th, 2020 at 7 o'clock p.m. If you have any questions concerning the role of the Board of Education and the responsibilities of the board member, please contact the superintendent's office at 810-538-1604. That's it for discussion. We are going to move on to our organizational business. And that will begin with the election of board officers and the appointment of school staff for 2020. We will begin with nomination.
I would like to nomination for president. I nominate Summer Putnam for president.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any other nominations? None. Mrs. Novak?
Aye.
Mr. Nolan?
Aye.
Mrs. Putnam?
Aye.
Mr. Hagedorn?
Aye.
Mrs. Becker?
Aye.
Mr. Keller says aye. Motion carries. Mrs. Putnam? Take a seat. Excuse me.
You resigned already?
Wow. I mean, I know I have some tough shoes to fill, but we didn't have to slide my name on it. Okay. So the next order of business is the election of a secretary.
I nominate Lisa Novak to fill the role of Secretary of the Board of Education.
Okay. So it sounds like I have a nomination.
Support.
So nomination, Lisa Novak as the secretary. Any other nominations? Mrs. Novak?
Aye.
Mr. Nolan?
Aye.
Mr. Keller?
Aye.
Mr. Hagedorn?
Aye.
Mrs. Becker?
Aye.
Okay, perfect. I'm sorry, Mrs. Aye. See, I know I forget something. Okay, so let's get to the next order of business is the election of vice president.
It would be my pleasure to also nominate Brad DeHaden as Vice President of the Board of Education.
Support.
Okay, so I have a nomination of Mr. Hagedorn for vice president. Any other nominations? Okay, so Brad Hagedorn for vice president. Mrs. Novak?
Aye.
Mr. Nolan?
Aye.
Mr. Keller?
Aye.
Mr. Hagedorn?
Aye.
Mrs. Becker?
Aye.
Mrs. Putnam says aye.
on some music for this one?
I know, right?
I have some help.
I can't have Denise on there, right? This is another-
Now we,
But yeah.
our chairs have been switched. It's gonna be difficult. Okay, so our next order of business is for treasurer. Our practice has been to have the assistant superintendent for business and operations serve as treasurer of the board.
I move that Mark Rader, the Assistant Superintendent for Business and Operations, be appointed as treasurer.
Yeah, I'll support that.
Okay. Mrs. Becker? Aye. Mr. Hagedorn?
Aye.
Mr. Nolan?
Aye.
Mr. Keller?
Aye.
Mrs. Novak?
Aye.
Mrs. Putnam says aye. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so next order of business is the recording secretary. So the administration is recommending that Mary Moss be appointed as recording secretary for the Board of Education.
I'll motion that Mary Moss, the administrative assistant for the Board of Education and superintendent, be appointed to serve as recording secretary for Board of Education meetings.
I'll support.
Okay. Mrs. Novak?
Aye.
Mr. Nolan?
Aye.
Mr. Keller?
Aye.
Mr. Hagedorn?
Aye.
Ms. Becker?
Aye.
Ms. Putnam says aye. Okay, so moving to the appointment of board committees. So it is recommended that the board continue with the 4 committee structure and the following committees be formed: finance and operation, student advocacy and communication, teaching, learning and technology, and personnel. It is also recommended that legislative ad hoc committee continue to be utilized as an as-needed basis. Monthly committee meetings will be scheduled for the teaching, learning and technology, and finance and operation as scheduled and as needed for others.
I'll motion that the board president be authorized to appoint board committee members and chairpersons to the following committees for 2020: finance and operations, student advocacy and communication, teaching, learning and technology, and personnel. The board president will also be authorized to appoint members and chairpersons to the legislative ad hoc board.
Okay, we have a nomination and a support. So, Mrs. Becker?
Aye.
Mr. Hagedorn?
Aye.
Mr. Keller?
Aye.
Mr. Nolan? Mrs. Novak? Mrs. Putnam says aye. So I think with the committee structure, the way it is, I think we're just gonna leave that for now. So, and as the teaching, learning, and technology, Mr. Keller, I know we kind of spoke, but hopefully you'll share that temporarily until we have our additional board member. Okay, so I think that ends our organizational business for this evening. So we have Roland Warner here tonight to present to us. Mr. Stevens?
Well, thank you. I think there might be a little bit of a conspiracy here against Ronald Warner. First in the presentation, now you all moved around. I'm like, I cannot get this. It's been this way for I can't tell you how many years I've come, and all these faces have changed positions up here. So, perfect. Thank you, sir. Well, we are grateful to be here presenting to you all at the end of this year. I know that a lot of the schools have come to present to you on this goal, so I want you to feel sure that we're going to do it way different than what has been done before. And we're going to present some information to you that we're excited about at Roland Warner as well. I'm excited to be there. It's a great team. As you look, it's like the half of the school came to present, so I swear we'll keep it under an hour.
Oh, why would do better than that?
I know I will.
Not that I don't want to hear Darlene speak for an hour.
Yeah. So without further ado, we are presenting on board goal 2. You guys are very familiar with all this. I'm not going to go through all of it, read it all for you. It's on learner-centered instruction, student-centered instruction. Specifically on benchmark 2.1b. Like I said, I know a lot of the schools are presenting on this, so we wanted to do something a little bit different and present how Roland Warner is taking this in a different term. So to do that, I want to share with you our building goals too. And I think you're going to see that they match the district goals. But I wanted to explain these building goals were created after we did our instructional rounds. These instructional rounds took teachers through the process of going and looking through different classrooms, as well as then the administration come on in and look through the different classrooms, all based on Danielson rubric, which is our evaluation rubric. When we did this, we found some areas that we, as a staff, would like to have improved. We noticed that, I don't want to say deficits, but things that we could improve upon. The best part was when administration came through and did this, it was the exact same goals. So we're honest as a staff. We know what we want to do to make student improvement. And I say we, I'm speaking for all of them behind me. It was a concerted effort. This isn't something where the teachers are like, man, this is handed down from afar. They want to improve. They're seeing these parts. So these are our goals for our building. Improving questioning and discussion techniques, what happens to go along with 3D, and then developing clear success criteria aligned learning targets, which goes along with 3A in our evaluation rubric. The formative data falls in there as well for our third goal. Those are the goals that we came up with. I may put it on pretty letterhead so when we presented it at staff meetings and all that, everybody's got a good feeling going, and we're rolling along with the goals. So what are we doing at Roland Warner that's going to meet these goals and the district goals? Well, the district started a few initiatives. One of them was a book study. It's 10 mind frames for visible learning. In this book study, which Mr. Cross is going to explain in just a little bit, it takes and kind of elevates where we are at as a teaching staff and gives us some handy elements, effect size, and says, hey, these are probably things you should be concentrating on. But I'm not going to go too far into it. I'm going to let Mr. Cross go into it. We also, as a district, for secondary staff, went through a Kagan Collaborative Learning Structures, PD, at the beginning of the year. It was great watching all the secondary teachers in there. It was uncomfortable. They had to get up and participate in groups and move around. This staff you see behind you was all into it. They were like, it wasn't uncomfortable for them at all. In fact, I saw some of them get right up like nose to nose with each other, and it was very cool. But we took these and we changed them just a little bit to fit our building. But it's district initiatives and district goals in our building goals. So without me going into too much further, this is Mr. Rich Cross. He's our associate principal for Roland Warner. He's going to talk about the 10 mind frames book study that we're doing.
Got something on the clock here, so I don't want anyone.
Sorry. Is the alarm going to go off?
Very loud.
Right after I clicked out of this, I have to stop the timer now. As Mr. Stevens said, we are doing a book study, like every other building in the district. And having been a part of book studies in a couple different districts I've worked in, there's good ways and there's bad ways to do it. I've been part of both. So we want to do something that was going to be meaningful, get the most return out of our staff and in turn for our students, not just kind of make it something that we checked off as something we did. So what we did, working together with Andrea Payne, and Lisa Basic, our learning coaches, was design a meaningful 2-day professional development as part of an ongoing series with our book study. And we took the 10 mind frames. There are 18 factors that Hattie and Zero identified. Broke them up to 9 one day and 9 the next day. We broke staff up randomly into groups and in pairs. And they did a couple of things. First, they went ahead and they read their actual corresponding section of the book. And then they went ahead and collaborated together and made some anchor charts. As you can see, they did was they took their actual factor, which was, in this case, worked examples. They illustrated the effect size. Hattie and Zero went through, and they actually studied these and found a way to quantify their effectiveness. So their effect size would range from low, medium, to high. They would write down the corresponding mind frame that they went along with, and then provided examples of what it is and what it is not. So we did this over a 2-day period in November and early December. Once the anchor charts were done, we posted them all around the library. And then the groups will go around with sticky notes and provide feedback, connections, questions, great point, what about this? And they put them all along that like gallery walk style activity. They actually collected these sticky notes, and we're using those to kind of inform as formative feedback for us, the direction we're going to go with professional development. And as you look through here, we also went through and coded them based on what they also apply to. So in this case, green right here reflected upon our building goals, which Mr. Stevens talked about. Yellow were those that went along with K instructors that we did professional development early in the year and continue to do it throughout the year. And orange was those that correlate with win-win discipline, which is also a branch of Kagan, which is mainly getting into here in a little bit. So again, we're moving in the right direction, we think. We did the last kind of part of this before Christmas break was a survey that staff members took regarding which of these 18 factors they felt they wanted to kind of explore the most. And we're looking at that data right now. We're going to group staff members up based on their results in the survey, and we're going to use that to kind of inform our PD for the rest of the year, starting with next week. So, we got to stay on time. This is down our hallway in our conference room. You can see that there's actually one for all 18. There's the effect size, what the actual factor is, what it is, what it should look like, what it isn't, as well as, again, the different Kagan, win-win discipline, and building goals it corresponds to. So if you're ever having to stop by Roland Warner, pop in our conference room in the main office, which is pretty cool. And here, this is Gannon with Assessment Capable Learners.
Hi. So part of the 10 mind frames, we then chose, we're in the process, of expanding more on which mind frame we ourselves want to work on building on. Mine, I'm intrigued by assessment capable learners. I want to figure out how can kids create their own authentic assessments, and how do they know themselves whether they're learning what they need to without me telling them or without me giving them, per se, an assessment. So I tried it. I thought, what the heck? So we did a warm-up, and in the warm-up, it was simply, what do you think you should know? It was the end of the unit. What do you think that you should be able to do? And they all individually created their lists. They did a rally robin. Then we shared out rally robin whole class. And then I showed them the success criteria from the end of, from their unit. They nailed it. Sure. So with that, I thought, well, this is a great opportunity since they nailed the success criteria, without them even looking at it at that point. I thought this is a good time for them to create their own assessment because they know exactly what they should know up to this point. So then we talked about what does a good assessment look like, and they created what they thought a good assessment would be. And from there, together, they worked in partners and they created their own partner assessments. So then that led me to the next unit. One of the things I found is that we could pre-test every unit, but a lot of times it's just a test, paper, pencil, and sometimes they take their time and really try to think about what they know, or a lot of times they look at it and think, this is a new unit, I don't know anything. Well, they know a lot more than they think, and they're missing that from one unit to the next, there's links. And so if they can identify that they really do know information to help them with the new information they're building on, then maybe that will help them understand and feel like, well, I don't know anything until we start teaching it. So I decided to flip it and do the opposite for the next unit. So I gave them all the success criteria that they were going to have for the entire unit. And they had to look at it. And then I said, as a group, you're going to create a poster to demonstrate what skills you already know about, what questions you may have, what vocabulary you think you're going to need to know for the unit. And from there, this is an example of one of them they came up with. After they all created their posters, we did a gallery walk. And one of their tasks was, as they went around and looked at all the posters, was to jot down what they noticed. And when we came back and met as a group, some of the things that they noticed is that there were quite a few skills that all of them knew that they already had an understanding of. And then we found that there were some students that knew some skills that the rest of them didn't, and so we talked about that. But it was a great entry point for us to start a unit, for them to see that everything links, and then they use the success criteria as we continue through the unit to go back and to report how they're doing and where they are. And then, you know, at the end, we do another summative assessment, and sometimes we do it authentically like we did the previous unit, and sometimes not. But the intent of this, and I was really surprised, when I gave them the task, you know, there was silence, and I knew prior that it was going to be a challenge, right? Because they're like, what do you mean that we got to make a poster of what we know? We haven't been taught this yet. But I assured them that they really did, and we shared out, well, what are some of the units that you learned in 6th grade? You know, and I threw out some keywords, like some of the fun ones, and then that started sparking interest and conversation. And so, you know, it's just a really cool way to see that the success criteria can not only be used for the end of the unit, but it can be used as a pre-assessment, which gives me great information to streamline my instruction. So, you know, I can identify what everybody as a class really has an understanding of and what, you know, I can go by to get where we need to. So, I'm excited about the idea of really helping them take ownership and really give them opportunity to show how they're learning in their own authentic ways of showing that they understand the material. So with that being said, I'm going to introduce Lisa Basic, who is our math learning coach, and she's going to be talking about payment structures and how that ties to board goals and our RW goals.
I'll add on to what Darlene said as well. The pictures that you saw early on with the teachers in the conference room, that was one of our math labs that we hosted in December. And what was so exciting is that teachers actually got a chance to collaborate around the work that Darlene had been doing. She was kind of the guinea pig and kind of cracking into this idea of using success criteria at the beginning, middle, and end of a unit. And as we collaborated throughout the day about these exciting things that we were kind of discovering as we went, really throughout the day, people were referring to, they had these mind frames on the wall, and it was just a really dynamic experience. Everyone feels really energized by the synergy happening. So it's an interesting thing, as Darlene was talking about all of this with the great learning that's going on. In a classroom, the learning that's happening is actually invisible until you get kids talking about it and working. And so it's a challenge for teachers to get all of the kids engaged, not just one kid saying an answer or a second kid saying an answer. And so the secondary was able to have the Kagan structure training. And when you think about cooperative groups or group work, you might think, well, kids have been doing group work since elementary school. Why do secondary kids, why do the teachers need to really focus on this? But if you think about your experiences working in groups, maybe as a kid or even as an adult, it's kind of like a two-sided coin, right? Like if you look at a group and there's 2 people working, there's 2 people not, chances are there might be some dynamics going on there. Maybe one person's controlling everything. Maybe one person's feeling like they're getting stuck doing all the work. Maybe there's a kid that's checked out or discouraged, given up, or maybe they're just trying to escape. So there's a lot of dynamics, and at the secondary level, everything changes too, because the content gets harder, much more abstract. They're not working with building blocks. They're trying to solve equations and inequalities. And then the whole teenage brain. All of a sudden, it's not so cool to stand out. You're a lot more concerned about your image and what people think of you. And so it was perfect, a perfect resource for the secondary people to have to help us think about how to actually add more structures to support kids in having these cooperative groups that are really going to make a difference and engage people. PIES is kind of the 4 things that Kagan helps us think about. That positive interdependence, where it's not just every man for himself. We really want kids to be working together and to hashtag other people matter. That it's not just about you doing for you, but we care about everybody. That individual accountability, so that kids actually do have something that they need to produce or share. Kagan had some interesting research that they said that group work actually makes it messier for teachers to be able to figure out exactly what kids know. Because if they're working in a group, you may not know who actually solved that. So actually working independently gives you more of a read than group work. So that individual accountability piece, the equal participation, having all hands on deck, and that simultaneous interaction. So as Darlene was talking about how she had every single group working on brainstorming about what they already knew about these topics and what they still had left to learn. Everybody's working, everybody's engaged. So we really appreciate the opportunity to have that resource, that we're having another follow-up in March, yay. And so the ladies are going to share all the ways that Roll Warner has really jumped on board and embraced this. So next up we have Elena, and she's one of our social studies teachers. Oh, here, I have to put it in a certain spot.
All right,
There we go.
awesome. So, kind of building off of what Lisa was saying, we got the kids situated starting the year. I've got these awesome desks in a room where I can sit in groups of 4, and I put them into Kagan heterogeneous style seating, where you pair students high to low, medium, and it's based off reading scores. But I noticed right away, like, the goal of participation, getting everybody to participate and work, and that not everybody was doing it, and it's not where I wanted it to be. And so I talked to Andrea one day, and we came up with this goal of getting the kids really active in their learning, getting them to communicate, to talk, because we find that they learn so much more when they talk and they can build upon one another. So she came in and she observed my class doing a small group discussion. And so with this goal, goal number 1, students paying attention to others, so listening to each other. Goal number 2, participating in class, small groups and large groups. And then students being able to give evidence to support it. So she came in, took some data, and we went back and we're like, okay, we're going to set up some structures for them. And it's all from the Kagan training that we received in the beginning here. And I've started doing it from week 3 up until now. I'm still doing it, and kids love it. And they're simple. Everybody can do them, and the kids, at first they were a little nervous about it. But basically, with sitting in the groups of 4, we have them doing shoulder partner activities, group activities with 4, and so shoulder partners and time pair share. So we go through shoulder partners. They work with like we've got the number 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's an A and B. So sometimes like 1 and the 4s work together, 2s and 3s work together, and it's very structured. Person number 1, person number 2, you're going to talk for 30 seconds. We have the visible timer going. The kids can see it. We put a structure. Okay, you're going to switch and talk until the timer goes off. With this and keeping it so structured, we've had the opportunity to see kids open up, kids who are uncomfortable working with other kids, speaking, and it's really helped blossom some of the shy kids, and they're building and growing their knowledge while doing it. So through teaching them this, and also we realized we needed to make sure they felt comfortable working as a class, so we also incorporated some team building and class building activities. The team building activities just were in their small table groups, and they were simple things such as create a group name, create a team handshake. There are little structures with them. They don't take very long, but the kids love doing them each week. So that, like, for the handshake one, every single student had to participate. Every single day they greet each other, and then they have to say, great job, high five each other, they use their handshake. They had to come up with like a little slogan for their groups. And so doing that, they grow more comfortable with the table groups and students that they're working with. Then one day a week, we would do these class building activities, and it incorporates the whole class. We've done various class building activities. The one that seems to be their favorite is would you rather questions. Simple, easy, would you rather. Some of them are gross, some of them are just silly, but they go to either side of the room, and they just have to explain their choices. So Ms. Payne came back in, and through doing the social studies, just warm-up discussions, content-based, we were able to see, looking at the data, that their participation increased so much more. They spoke up over double, and every single student participated. So that was a huge increase. And on top of all this, the kids like doing this. Through their feedback, they look forward to this. They know every Monday and Friday they're going to do the team building. They know every Wednesday that they're going to do the class building activity.
Okay, Shelby, so this year you have some teachers using cadence structures, and how do you think that's impacting you or your classmates?
Making us like participate more, and we're not like just sitting around.
Do you think it's like more engaging in class?
Yeah, because you get to like do more work, and it's like a lot funner instead of like doing just sitting down in the papers.
Okay, thank you.
So I just want to add really quickly that Mrs. Schultz told the kids, like, Mrs. Payne would like to come in and take some kids to make videos. And the number of volunteers was out of control. Every time I came to the door, kids who would never, like, kids who really never wanted to interact at the beginning, like, loved it. And then even in the hallway, are you coming back to Mrs. Schultz? We should do some more cadence structure.
Then I'm coming back after the video. I rocked that.
There were so, I mean,
mine's gonna be the best video.
Yeah, we made a couple of videos, but there were so many too strong.
Right. So the biggest thing with this is they love this. They have noticed an increase in participation, which brings us up to the next person, which is Lisa.
None. One of the cooperative learning structures from Kagan that we learned this at the beginning of the school year is Rally Coach. And I do have to say that in my 29 years of teaching, it was one of the best trainings that Lapeer has ever had. It was very, very awesome. And it was teaching an old dog new tricks. You know, I'm like, how do I just put on the
Enter or does it arrow?
Okay, didn't do that tonight. Okay. All right, so, yeah. So, Rally Coach that you see up there is a structure that the students use that helps build the social skills, their communication skills, and works on their academic practice for their different skills, facts, and procedures that you could use in a classroom setting. So it's very easy to prepare, and it's used in a lot of the classrooms, and it involves the students getting into pairs. The teacher gives them, or has them have one pencil and one paper, and they take turns. The partner A will solve the first problem, and partner B watches, listens, checks, coaches, and then praises the student on how they're doing the problem, while the other, so they're both engaged at the same time. So instead of working alone, they're working together. After that, partner B goes next and solves the second problem with partner A, then becomes the coach and then praises them. And this continues until they're finished with the paper. This could be done orally, it could be done with paper, but there's different ways you could do it. But they are all engaged and they're working toward the same goal, is the great thing about it. In my math class, I've used Rally Coach to practice long division, adding and subtracting fractions, solving proportions, measuring angles. So it's very, it can hit all different kinds of concepts in the classroom. Mr. Cross spoke earlier about the 10
mind frames of visible learning, and Rally Coach falls under that topic of peer tutoring. And according to Patty, when students are assuming the role of teachers and become tutors, has a major impact on their learning. And the student who is teaching is benefiting, and the student who is getting the coaching is also benefiting from that. So they have an increased motivation for working together, and they tend to like class when they're working together anyway. The pictures that you see are not Rally Coach on the right. It has to do with small group learning and just the topic of teamwork. This, I took math recovery this year for my guided academics class, and these are students that are doing I have such a toolbox now of math games, and the kids are engaged and they're working together on that. And it's fun, and they're able to compete with each other. There's winners in the games. So that too was another awesome training, and again, supporting our initiative at school with the kids being, working together. And so at this point, I'll introduce Becky. Thank you. So, I'm going to talk about kind of a supporting program of Kagan, and I think after hearing everybody talk about it, you'll see that kids are really busy and engaged in class, so that takes care of most of the disciplinary issues that might come up. But when you have kids collaborating often, what happens is there's some social issues that might pop up. So then that kind of creates some new disciplinary issues, but we can teach them through social skills training and repetitive practice on how to deal with that. But then there's like this little slice, if you look at that graph there, I don't know if it pops in or not, let's see. Nope. Okay, so there's a little bit of disciplinary issues that still pop up because nothing's perfect, right? So, Win-Win Discipline is the supportive program that addresses whatever we don't cover through all of our other work. And the interesting thing, this whole thing kind of comes down to that disruption manifests when we're lacking skills to meet our unmet needs. So it's kind of a nice way to think of things. I think the majority of people who leave the profession of education is because they don't like to deal with discipline issues. It becomes miserable for them. And I think sometimes people take it personally, or it's just very stressful, and I think we aren't well prepared in college for it all the time. But when you start thinking about it as like, this isn't about me, this is about kids that need to learn skills. And it's not about, just like you don't get mad when somebody doesn't know how to do fractions, or they don't understand multiplication. When we think about discipline issues as just kids need to learn some skills, I think it kind of shifts the mindset and makes it feel a little more, well, one, proactive. I can teach skills, I'm a teacher. But Win-Win Discipline, this group did it in a really nice way. I actually was an EI teacher when I first started, and it's a psych minor, and I had a lot of classes about behavior management and how to deal with that. But I would say Win-Win Discipline was like the missing piece for me. I wish I had that training a million years ago, because it would have made things so much nicer. And a few of us went through Roll and Warner, 4 of us went to this training, and we just wanted to check it out. We loved the Kagan structure so much, we thought they at least have to have something good. And it blew our mind. We thought, we'll like maybe implement this next year. That's what we were thinking. But when we went, we were like, this is so incredible that we need to start doing some things with it right now. So, I'm trying to like give you a little background on it and not take too long, so I'll try to give you like a 3-minute spiel on it. Basically, they take all disruption in the world and boil it down into 4 categories. And those are aggression, breaking the rules, confrontation, disengagement. I think breaking the rules is pretty self-explanatory, but aggression is any verbal altercations or physical altercations between students. Confrontation is a student towards a teacher. It could be, it's not physical, but verbal is, not totally something that never happens. And disengagement is just off-task behavior. So these are the things that people see. This is the what. And we can track that. I'll talk about that in a little bit. Okay. Then, all these, like I said, there's a reason for all of these disruptions. And they kind of go back to these 7 positions. There's a why we do these things, because we need to meet some needs. And they took all of the universal needs that are out there. We all feel these things. All of us at some time we've all wanted attention. We've all wanted to avoid a failure. It's not a positive or negative things. These are very neutral. They just exist. So when kids don't know how to meet these needs, that's when we have disruptions. Okay? Now, one of the really nice things about women discipline is you can be very intentional and data-driven with this. And there should be one little section here. Oh, of course I didn't make that. Okay, well, I'll tell you. There's a little chart, and you can go through and maybe see, okay, are most of the disruptions in this room about confrontation? Are the kids being negative to the teacher? That means we need to build some relationships between the kids and the teacher. So that's very nice. Now we can be really intentional in our next move. Is there a lot of aggression between the kids? If that's the case, we need to build relationships between the kids. Is there a lot of breaking rules happening? Well, then we need to be very intentional about teaching procedures and being clear on what we're doing and following through. And then another one could be, are they disengaged? Well, now we need to amp up the engagement features and strategies we're using. Before, because coaching, it's not really super about behavior. It's supposed to be about educational practices, but a lot of people want support because it's miserable when your class is out of control. So now instead of like telling people, have you tried this? Well, have you tried this thing? And they were scattered in kind of a hodgepodge. Now I can come in, collect data, and then look. It looks like these kids are breaking a lot of rules. Let's look at how clear your procedures are. So now we can like be very precise in what we're doing. And one thing that is awesome is that in the Big Women Discipline book, they actually categorize all these things. So there's a lot of aggression. There's a whole list of tools. Have you tried these things? Have you heard of it? And the teachers can just check it right off. So in every position, every type of, every type of misbehavior is all categorized in here. So you can actually go through and then try all the tools that are in here and available. Lastly, I'm going to talk about some of the growth we had. So we had 2 teachers that really focused on this. One teacher had a small class, only about 10 students, but the class was constantly bickering like across the room. They weren't getting physical with each other, but it was disrupting the room like 10 or 11 times an hour, which that is a lot of arguing for such a small class. So, and this was a very skilled teacher too, so we kind of looked at all the disruption, we saw that pattern, it was mostly aggression, and then she started working on the class building from Kagan, the team building, and she taught social skills and problem solving skills and helped the kids learn to meet their own needs, because that's part of it too, teaching them the skills, not just like relying on the adults. And it went down to maybe one time, maybe a day, they might have like a little disagreement, but nothing like before. And then I had a newer teacher that came in kind of mid-year because one of our other teachers left, and it was kind of like a little bit of a mess for her. She had to establish everything. And that group had like, and I'm very picky when I look at the disruptions. So like if she does a hand raise signal and they don't all raise their hand in 10 seconds, I mark every one of those as a disruption. So this teacher had 298 disruptions. Like, it was really, really not great. I know, I hate to say it, but the positive thing is, so after weeks of working on like teaching kids to meet their own needs, using different environmental structures to like prepare them, that went down by 80%. So now like her 6th hour, which is her most challenging hour to begin with, is like manageable now. So, I'm going to, I think I missed some really critical things too, but I can't talk for an hour on this. Okay. Well,
She can talk for an hour.
Well, I did one day actually. I did one day. One day I came on trying to run this video. Wyatt was about to present, and I came to work like 20 minutes before. I'm like, hey, I have an idea. We need to talk about one of my disciplines today. I can do it in 10 minutes. And it's like 45 minutes later. Why can't I get to this quickly? All right, so I'll also talk about the video as I'm to talk about when Lynn was in both Elena's room and this other teacher's room. And I'm going to click it forward, but I don't want to play and then go back and all over again. So this particular student is actually a student that has like a high need for attention. And he's a pretty classic class clown. And the time when I actually taught them, like it's not in Kagan to actually teach the 7 positions explicitly, but I felt like these kids like would get it. And I asked them, did you know it's okay to need attention? And like you could see his face like a whole weight like was lifted from him. And then I asked kids like, did you know it's okay to be angry? And everyone was like, oh no. My mom said you could not be angry. I'm like, you can. You just have to learn how to express it appropriately. And they were so excited. So this student was like, he would have gone on and on in this video, I think. So this is a little snippet. He does not talk about the attention part, which I was sad about, but. All right, here we go.
All right, Heather, so you have some teachers that are using Kagan structures this year. So in what ways have you noticed that's benefited you or your classmates or both?
Well, I think some of my classmates have been participating more often, and I think the class is more fun when you would you rather, or and like the class overall more fun. And I think when the teacher raises their hand instead of the teacher asking the kids to be quiet, I think it's more beneficial than having kids wait 30 seconds to 45 seconds just to be quiet. And when you put your hand up, I think they're more quiet than less than 10 seconds. And I think its work is more evenly distributed. Like, say if someone always gets the paper in one class, and you have a teacher doing this method, then it's more evenly distributed. So one person can get it one day, and then another person can get it another day, and it's just overall fair.
All right, thanks.
So I just wanted to hug him because that hand raising thing, I talked to the kids. Did you know that if it takes more than 30 seconds every day on average, that happens in teachers all day, it will waste 15 days of school? And they were like, oh my, he's very chatty, so like a lot of times it's kind of as he's talking, he was like, no way, 15 days. So now the fact that he thought it's got to be under 10 seconds, I'm like, oh, yes. Okay, so with that, if you have any questions about this in the future, I'd be happy to go into more detail, because I do love it. I'm going to stop myself, because I noticed a few things about Mr. Stevens.
By the way, she just came from the hairdresser. Hair looks very good.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to make this very brief for you guys. Positivity Project is something that we implemented during our iConnects, and that we talked a lot about relationship success, and that I would love to have you guys come on over and see some of the teachers that are utilizing Positivity Project, because it really is helping with our issue at middle school when we talk about behaviors. It isn't bullying and all these other things. It truly is not. Last year, I think I suspended 2 kids for bullying. It's relationships. You heard them say other people matter. You heard them say in classroom working in groups and that. It's about relationships. This is helping build our relationships at our school during iConnect time. So I encourage you, if you guys ever want to come on over and see, it's 24 character traits. There's a different PowerPoint every week that the teachers go through. It's based on grade level and that. It really is amazing to listen. I've had kids come on down to the office and share some stuff after going through one of these presentations with the teachers. Very cool. So that all ties into what we're doing, which I'm wrapping it on up with our conclusion. What we're doing is focus on district goals. It's focus on Roll and Warner goals. We're taking the district initiatives. They're all meshing together. It's all working towards one goal, which is student learning, student engagement. And that's what we're focused on. So it all ties into that when we look at it, the Kagan, Caddies, Win-Win Discipline, Positivity Project. We're trying to get those students as a whole so that they can come to school and be successful. So that's what's happening in Roll and Warner. Thank you for giving us more time than we were allotted. So if you have any questions, they're willing.
You finished early, it's important.
4 hours early.
I don't have a question, but I certainly have a comment. When I got on board the first time, I said, oh, Roll and Warner. Now it's Roll and Warner, baby. There's no question. And I don't want to get smacked by some in the gallery, but back when I had a few of you as teachers, I'm not surprised at the transition at Roll and Warner, really. It starts at the top, but you guys have to buy in. It's clear the passion that you guys show. So thank you.
It's an awesome set.
And before, because I know that you'll probably want to get up and leave, so I just thought you once again had just impressed me so much on the professional organization that you're building over there. Not only are you setting all these expectations for the students, but the one thing that really caught me was when you walk in and say, what do you want to learn from this class? When it's my idea, I'm into it now. And that is like, it just caught me, that is so great, rather than, welcome to English 101, here's what I'm teaching you, and you're expected to learn, and we'll see if you can do it.
Cool, actually, just based on that, I'm not sure if you guys caught it, the poster, the effect size of the assessment capable learners is off the charts.
Yeah.
It's at 1.33. That's why students are engaged. They're hooked.
Thank you.
Thank you. I learned a lot. I just want you to know that. As a college professor, it's like sometimes I'm thinking, okay, this stuff does apply even to my students. And I had a really successful class last semester, and I was like, you guys just confirmed as to why it happened. It's because of the participation. And the attendance was amazing. And I thought that has to affect your attendance as well, because they don't want to let their peers down. And that's the biggest thing. They don't care about the teacher, but when their friend's sitting there, then they go, oh, I don't want to miss, because then I might let them down. So anyways, I learned a lot. Thank you very much. You guys are doing a great job.
You know, what I learned very much, every time, each and every time there's a presentation, but tonight probably more than some, how hard it is for you to all make it look easy. Because if I walked into the classroom, I'm going to see very competent professionals doing things that just look second nature. Not knowing all of the hard work and seeing all the study and all the preparation that goes into it. And so, like we've done many times before, I want to say thank you to you all. You are not paid enough. You are not recognized enough for all the things that we all know that go into all of this. And it's one of these situations where we certainly wish we had more to give you, because you are a very deserving group. So thank you very much.
Yes, every month I'm amazed at what we hear from all the different schools now. It's just, wish I was at school now, you know, because it's just, yeah, it's just amazing how the kids are learning. They don't know any different. They don't know what we had, and it's just, yeah, it's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think the biggest takeaway I think I heard is the ownership you're giving the students to take over their learning. And I have to say that that's probably harder for you, because it's easier to go over the summer, plan your lesson, you know what you're going to do every day, you know what you want to drill into them. And this is harder to approach it of, what do the students already know? They're taking ownership, they're setting their own goals, they're assessing how well they did. I mean, that's amazing. So continue doing that great work. Really appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
The word that comes to mind for me is I'm just really proud of you guys. To hear Darlene and Lisa say things like, you're experimenting in your class and doing it for 29 years and doing it a certain way. Like that takes a lot of courage, a little inventiveness, risk. It's a risk, you know, because you're both really good teachers. And it's not like you had to reinvent how you instructed, but you were willing to do that. And that's, our kids are the beneficiaries of your risk taking. And I think that's just, you have to model lifelong learning. And you guys are doing that, right? Every day, and coaching and being coached, right? Coachability, I say it all the time. To me, it's two things that I admire most in professionals. If you're a reflective person, like if you can say, I really messed up and I want to change. Closely tied to being reflective is coachability. So, hey, come on in, you know, I'm not so good at this, and I'm willing to admit it, and I want you to help me. And there's a vulnerability in that, but I think vulnerability in any relationship is a cornerstone of a healthy relationship, if you can be vulnerable with someone. So I know that there's a lot of vulnerability when you're opening your classroom up to being coached, when the administrators come in and it's instructional walk time, there's vulnerability there. But look what's happening as a result of us all just saying, it's not about evaluation, it's not about catching people doing it wrong, it's about being student-centered. There wasn't one comment that I heard in the last 40 minutes that had any... Were you counting? It's all facts. It's factual. That had anything to do with teachers. I wrote down whole child, student-centeredness, student focus. You mentioned it, you mentioned it as well. There wasn't one comment in here. You guys aren't just taking a PD, going through the motions. It's really becoming part of who you are as a staff. And our kids are going to be the beneficiaries of that. So, to Wyatt's point, it is about relationship. To the degree that really intentional professionals know we want to help kids be better achievers, right? That's the end goal. It's not that we don't care about the test scores. It isn't, but that isn't the focus. We don't start there. You've got teachers now collecting data on what is at the root of disrupting classrooms, because that affects what? The ability to learn, which affects the test score. Don't start with the test score, right? I would not want to hear a teacher or a principal come in here and say, our goal is to improve test scores, right? Because you're never going to get to the root of what is a barrier for individual students from accessing their education opportunities. So I'm very, very proud of the work you guys are doing. It's really amazing stuff. I hope the board can see with these very focused district goals how they manifest themselves in each of the buildings. You can see it, the variations in elementary versus middle level versus high school. There's a lot of congruence, I think, with what we're doing here, and you can feel it in the presentations.
I apologize because I just thought of this, but what's the main reason all of us are here? I mean, we're here to make an impact on the lives of our students, right? There's no question that tonight we can leave here and go, you guys are making an impact. There's no question. I'm sure all of us know we get some presentations and we leave and go, oh, no, that was all right. But tonight we're going to leave here and go, fantastic. So, sorry.
Well done. Thank you guys very much for coming this evening. I think we'll just take a quick 5-minute recess, so then you guys can just stay awake.
He just needs to try and get you out of here. Good job.
And it's like, oh my God. We still had all the kids. They haven't retired yet. They were old school all the way. Yeah, I worked that way? We got a lot of only one that all the rest are just first grade. I have a lot. They'll have a way. They'll get to see it, yeah.
You say, Hey, has the work for the garden that Chris Pro got, has that started? Okay.
Oh, she ended up right here.
Those parents know what they did.
And then we're not doing much, kind of.
I'll give you that.
Oh, okay. Isn't that cool? So excited. I know, I'm like, Michelle's crying. Are you crying? You're crying. Curriculum director. I'm not gonna lie, I was cheering for you. I know. Is that being military Shannon? Now I gotta keep Speaking of now, because now I know. The teachers are like, why can't we do that? I know. These guys know, but they got to like, what I'm thinking, right? I think it's day one, they'll do day one, and then they'll do a cake, and then they can just revert. That's nice. Wouldn't that be cool? That's a good kickoff. Yeah. Yeah. Right. That's
Back in the corner again. Started.
Okay, keep So I don't think we have any public comment for tonight. I don't see any comment cards. So we'll go into the reports. So we have the Personnel Committee, Mr. Nolan.
All right, we met yesterday afternoon. We had a few items of discussion. The first topic was kicking off the superintendent evaluation process at the time. And we'll be hearing from that here next month and in the coming months ahead. And then we talked about the four policy updates to sort of align our procedures with Michigan law. That's always a good thing to do. And so it's the recommend, and you'll hear about these here shortly, but it's the recommendation of the Personnel Committee that those policies be done for first reading this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Nolan. So we're going to head into the action items. We have in the consent grouping the meeting minutes of the December 4th, 2020 regular meeting.
I make a motion with the reading, okay. I make a motion that the reading of the minutes be waived and approved as presented. Support.
Any discussion? Okay. Hearing none, so Mrs. Becker?
Aye.
Mr. Hagedorn?
Aye.
Mr. Keller?
Aye.
Mr. Nolan?
Aye.
Mrs. Novak?
Aye.
Mrs. Putnam says aye. Okay, into the first reading of the policies. The first policy is 1240, evaluation of the superintendent.
I'll move that the reading be waived, policy 1240, admin evaluation of superintendent be approved for first reading.
I'll support that.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Mrs. Novak?
Aye.
Mr. Keller? Mr. Nolan?
Aye.
Mr. Keller?
Aye.
Mr. Hagedorn?
Aye.
Mrs. Becker?
Aye.
Mrs. Putnam says aye. The second policy is 1420, school administrator evaluation.
I'll make a motion that the reading be waived and policy 1420, administrative school administrator evaluation be approved for first reading.
Support.
Motion is supported. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mrs. Becker?
Aye.
Mr. Hagedorn?
Aye.
Mr. Keller?
Aye.
Mr. Nolan?
Aye.
Mrs. Novak?
Aye.
Mrs. Putnam says aye. Moving to policy 3142, this is probationary teachers.
I'll move the reading be waived in policy 3142, professional staff probationary teachers be approved at first reading.
I'll support that.
Supported. Any discussion? Mrs. Becker?
Aye.
Mr. Hagedorn?
Aye.
Mr. Keller?
Aye.
Mr. Nolan?
Aye.
Mrs. Novak?
Aye.
Mrs. Putnam says aye. And the last policy, 3220, professional staff evaluation.
Also make a motion that to read and be waived and policy 3220, professional staff evaluation, be approved as first reading.
Board.
Okay. Motion and support. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mrs. Becker?
Aye.
Mr. Hagedorn?
Aye.
Mr. Keller?
Aye.
Mr. Nolan?
Aye.
Mrs. Novak?
Aye.
Mrs. Putnam says aye. I think that's all of our action items. Now on to board member communication topics. Any tonight?
I just want to thank the food service for the dinner. That was really, really good. It was just a nice time.
I agree completely, and I only think one thing could have made our dinner better tonight, and that would then have we discussed the Kagan collaborative structures while we were in there. Again, and we said it with your staff was here, I'm glad they were here, they never would commented, but you know how I feel about you know how we feel about you and your school and everything that you guys have done, and I'm not kidding. I mean, I do realize more and more how hard you all work, you know, to proverbially talk, make it look easy. It's just, it's amazing everything that you go through, and you know, all of the innovation and the collaboration. And as I'm hearing too, and you talk about words you pick up from these things, bigger confidence. I mean, you're inspiring confidence in the kids and the teachers and everything else. As they go through the process, I think probably everyone feels more and more comfortable from top to bottom. I mean, I think it's just a great thing, and I sure wish that when I first got on this board, we were having some of these very same discussions. I mean, it's unfortunate, it takes a while to get to some of these things, but the fact that you're getting there, you're just grabbing these things with gusto and just getting it done, and I really appreciate that.
And I'd like to just piggyback off of that, thinking too, when we were first on this board, those were the discussions we had, is how do we get that professional organization? How do we get that, you know, it's just not the teacher in the class for trying to figure out what to do, and we've seen so much growth in this first board, this time that you've been at the city, it's unbelievable. And when we watch these presentations, like I said, it's nice to impress me every time you come out here. I'm just blown away by, you know, what are they doing next? And you always think, how can they do more? And it just keeps coming and coming and coming. And I did think about too that Mrs. Bradford, I know you're in the background there, right? Thank you.
I cried like 3 times.
Michelle's trying to clap before
It's very rewarding to see all of these things come together, and I even heard somebody tonight say, well, they all, maybe you said, they're all fitting together, right? I've seen, just sitting on this side, right, a lot of pieces coming together in this district over a few years that it's just amazing what's going on. I think it's phenomenal, I really do. This could just be a book one day, who knows? Thank you.
I just want to say thank you too, because it makes me so proud to be a part of this district. I mean, everything that I've heard in the year that I've been on the board, it's amazing the amount of work that is put into our students. So, I mean, I'm excellently proud to be part of the district. So, thank you guys again for coming. Any other topics? Okay. Mr. Wondry?
Madam President, thank you very much. It starts at the top, and it starts with Michelle Bradford, because nobody has pressed these professional development topics and scaffolded them in a way that I think has been very appropriate to get our K-5 group, our 6-12 group on board. The principals are confident in this material, which goes down to our staff, so kudos to you, Michelle. And I know she's like a proud mama watching these principals, and you know, that's the core, our function. When you really want to boil it down, Cole, I can speak for every member of the team. we fashion ourselves as a support network for the building principals and the buildings themselves. That's our job. Our job is to put the tools in their hands. Now, also there's an accountability component to that, which the district firmly believes in, and I think that trickles down the organization as well. But from a support perspective, Michelle has really engaged the learners that are professionals in this district, learning coaches and administrators, about how do you help remove barriers for teachers and help them improve in their work. And that is the work of the building principalship and the associate principals. Michelle has really developed that culture. We're really proud of that. So good job, guys. Thank you very much, Michelle. Happy New Year to everyone. It's great, 2020. I haven't written the date wrong once. It's never happened in my professional career. I'm going to keep that streak going. I wanted to give an update of someone, a district partner who's near and dear to many of us. Christy Kiger has been a longtime resident, parent, advocate, volunteer, booster member, fundraiser, district cheerleader, part of every strategic plan initiative, every bond initiative in this district. Leader Fund, selfless parent, district parent advisory council member. Really, really unfortunate news recently in her family. She was unfortunately diagnosed with a brain tumor. Operated on today. Good news is it appears to be non-cancerous. She is awake. Appears to be giving her family heck already, which is just like Christy. But obviously, anytime you have that kind of an invasive procedure, it's always scary. So our thoughts and prayers, from a district perspective, are with Christy and her family. Her daughter also goes into the emergency room today with kidney stones. So just a tough time for the family. But gosh, anybody deserves and has earned our support through a tough time. It's the Kiger family, and in particular Christy. So please keep her in your thoughts and prayers. I wanted to give the community just a brief overview. When I say brief, I'm just going to discuss this at 30,000 foot level. Obviously, since the bond election in November, the district has been working behind the scenes and just discuss what the next steps might be. And I want to let the board know that in the committee process over the next few months, we're going to be talking in specific detail about some of the options that we have to consider. I think as a board moving forward, given the fact that the bond vote didn't turn out the way we wanted it to, but our work doesn't stop. And we have an obligation to our students, staff, and community to put our heads together collectively as a district leadership team and a board and talk about what the viable next steps and options might be. So we have, as Mike mentioned, a special meeting scheduled for February 12th, and we have to do that. We received the board member resignation effective January 13th. We have an obligation to fill that seat within 30 days. So it was incumbent upon us to either do everything at the February 5th meeting, meaning interview, deliberation, oath of office, seat that person, or spread out over 2 meetings, giving us a little opportunity to have some think time about candidates as they presented. But at that February 12th meeting, we'll also have some more open and honest dialogue about some of the options that we were able to discuss in the committee meetings that you're going to have prior to February 12th. And let's let the community know what we're thinking about what the next steps might look like. So that's coming for the community's sake in the next several weeks. I wanted to pay special tribute and thanks to Denise, Mike, and Mike for your service in the board leadership positions that you occupied for so long. As a superintendent, I can only tell you that consistency and continuity in board leadership goes a long way. I mentioned earlier that the curriculum improvement, instructional practice improvement you've seen starts at the top. So does all the work that you allow the whole team to do. So having a supportive, constant board is an unbelievable benefit to districts that not every district gets to enjoy. Okay? There's turnover in the superintendency, turnover in board leadership, turnover in board trustee membership, and that kind of chaotic leadership leads to a trickle-down effect of some not so good effects and impact for kids. So thanks to you for not only your service on the board, but also risking to be leaders of that body. It means a lot to us. And then as we pass the torch to Lisa, Brad, and Summer, you mentioned it, big shoes to fill, right? We've got how many collective years of experience between the Mikes and Denise? How many?
15.
Each, yeah, so 45, 50 years of experience. You've seen a lot, good, bad, everything in between. I know that Lisa, Brad, and Summer have been paying close attention to your leadership example, and I want to thank the three of them for accepting the nominations to be the next generation of leaders for this board and this community. It's a very important role that you've accepted, so thank you very much for, again, I'll use that word I use with the staff, risking to lead, risking to put yourself out there as leaders of our board, so thank you very much. It means a lot. With that, I yield the remainder of my time to you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Mondry. So I think we have one last item.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Okay.